What is going on, YouTube? So in today's video, we're going to be doing a transmission fluid change on our daily driver 2021 Toyota Camry TRD. And these Camrys are, well, the TRDs specifically are a 3.5 liter V6 with the UA80 8-speed automatic transmission. So this video is pretty much going to relate with every Camry of this generation, the 4-cylinders, TRDs, XLEs, XSEs. It's all the same principle. The 8-speed automatic transmission in both the 4 and 6 cylinders are the exact same. So as you can see here, I have a list of all the tools that you will need to do this job in your own garage or even your driveway. So let's work down the list here. First things first, you will need a floor jack and 4 jack stands because the car needs to be jacked up and supported level on all 4 corners, which is why you need 4. Here I have a 1/2 inch drive ratchet with a 24mm socket, and that 24mm is for the fill plug for the transmission. You will need a flathead, a skinny flathead screwdriver to help pop loose some of the plastic retaining clips that hold in your splash shields and the access panel to the fill plug. You can use a regular ratchet. In my case, I'm using my electric ratchet. It makes things a lot easier. You will need a ratchet with a 10mm deep well socket. Those are to remove the bolts holding on this splash shield and access panel. So these two work hand in hand because your panels are held in together by 10mm bolts and plastic retaining clips. You will need an extension of some sort, 4 to 6 inches long, it doesn't matter, with a 6mm hex or Allen head socket. So this is for the level plug that's inside the drain plug. So you will need this to remove that plastic piece. And the drain plug itself is a 10mm Allen head or hex socket. And I have an infrared temperature gun here so we can read the transmission temperature, because to drain the excess fluid, the transmission has to be up to operating temperature, which is from 95 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll go more in depth with that later in the video. And to remove the driver's side wheel, you will need a 21mm socket. I'm using my 1/2 inch electric impact, but if you have a 4-way or a breaker bar, it's all the same thing. This just makes life easier on me, but you will need a 21mm socket to break free those 5 lug nuts. A flashlight will definitely come in handy if you're working underneath the car, just to help you spot those plugs and retaining clips so much easier. You will need a drain pan, obviously, and a transfer pump. I'm using a transfer pump that goes into a 1-quart bottle. So speaking of transmission fluid, I'm using Valvoline Max Life. I love this stuff. I've used it in high horsepower builds before, like my Shelby GT500s and Cadillac CTS-Vs. So I definitely trust this fluid for a daily driver Camry. And it is specifically rated for Toyota and Lexus vehicles. And we need a top WS. Try to get my thumb there for you guys if you can see that. WS right there. So this is the proper rated ATF that you will need for your Camry. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pull the car in and get started. This car is coming along 70,000 miles. So this fluid that's in the car is all original. So we just want to do our proper maintenance and replace that fluid with fresh fluid. So I'm going to go ahead and jack the car up and set it on jack stands. trying to get the car up as high as possible so we have more room to work underneath it. So now I'm going to support it. Same principle. I'm going to try to get it up as high as we can. Now we're going to remove the driver wheel. Just 5 of these 21mm lug nuts. And now with the wheel off, you can see 2 of the 10mm bolts that we need to remove, and this little plastic clip here, so we can get access to the fuel plug that's behind the panel. Now I'm just going to use a little orange pick, getting behind the head of this plastic clip, and just pull it out just like so. Now this plastic panel is free, and we can get in here and see the 24mm fuel plug right there. Let me get underneath so I can give you guys a better look. You can see it. It is right there. So let's remove that. Have my 24mm short L 1/2" ratchet. Squeeze it in behind this plastic panel. Sucker's torqued on there. Once you break it initially, you can just reach in here, unscrew it by hand. There's the fuel hall, if you guys can see that. So now that that's removed, when we open up our drain, it'll flow a lot better. Okay, as you can see, the car is jacked up and supported, and now we're getting underneath of it. So I'm going to show you guys this plastic splash shield, skid plate, whatever you want to call it, that is on the TRD Camrys. So it's held on by bolts and a few clips. So I'm going to get in here and show you guys the 2 10mm that you need to remove. So there's one here. It goes up inside this hole. So if you have a deep well, you can get up in there and remove that one. And number 2 is tucked underneath this overlap, which we can peel that back. I'm trying to get it in frame. I don't think I'm going to be able to. There, you can see I have it backed out. There we go. Now we just have the plastic clips to remove. So here's one of the plastic clips we have to remove. I'm just using a flat head. As you can see, I'll wedge it underneath that tab. It wants to rotate. Let's get it pushed out just like so. You can kind of just wiggle it out. We have 2 more. This one right here, working along down the car. Same principle, pop it out, wiggle it out. And our 3rd one is over here. There we go. The skid plate is now free. Let's set it over to the side. And now we have drain plug right here. So let's get our drain pan underneath it and break it open. You can use either type of transfer pump, but I'm going to use this one specifically to go into a quart-sized bottle. So, but either one of these will work. This is just going to be a little more convenient for us. So I'm going to set this to the side and this transfer pump, and we're going to put our drain pan underneath the transmission. Okay, so here we are underneath the car. We have access to the drain bolt right here, and it is a 10mm hex bolt or Allen head. And just a heads up, it is torqued on there. So just like the fuel plug, once you break that initial shock, you can undo it by hand. And just FYI, it's going to be a huge mess. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm in a painter's jumpsuit just because it's going to be messy. So now we have removed the drain plug. Now we need to remove the plastic level plug. So the plastic level plug is a 6mm hex or Allen, and it is hand tightened, so you don't have to hook it up to a ratchet. I'm just using an extension and my 6mm Allen socket to pull it out. So this goes up inside your drain plug, and when we go back with reinstalling this, we hand tighten it as well. I'm gonna open up the vent on that drain pan. So now we're draining all of the old fluid out. May take a few minutes. So now that all of the transmission fluid has drained out, you're just going to start the plastic level plug back in here. Remember, just start it by hand. It does not need to be torqued. 6mm hex. We're just going to run this up, like I said, by hand. Don't want to strip it out. It is plastic. Once it bottoms out, stop. So now it's bottomed out. And this plug, like I said, determines the fluid level. So it's critical that you do run it all the way up and don't over torque it. Now we're going to put our drain plug back in. And we're not going to torque it to spec yet. We're just going to give it a little lot tightening. That way it doesn't leak. But we don't want to torque it just yet because it will need to come back off. I'm going to clean up all the residual fluid. And now we can work from the driver's side wheel well. So here's my quart of ATF and my transfer pump. And this is a transfer pump that I use for other fluids. So I went ahead, hooked it up, and bled it with clean fluid. As you can see, it's in the tube. So we're going to run this tube inside the fill port. Run in there pretty good so it doesn't risk falling back out. And now we're going to start pumping our fluid in. So there's quart 2. And I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing. I just use 1 quart's worth at a time. Put a funnel into this quart bottle and just top off this bottle with my bigger gallon jug that I bought. And I'm actually going to put 4 quarts in this transmission, and you guys will see why later in the video. It does not matter if you overfill this transmission, because the car actually drains the fluid itself when it's up to temperature, up to the proper amount. So don't worry about putting too much in it. So now we are finishing up our 4th quart. As you can see, it's about empty now. That's the last of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and we are completely done with the fill port. So you can go ahead and start this back inside. Now we're going to get in here and torque it down. I'm not using a torque wrench, I'm just going to use a common sense torque setting. Just torque it until it feels super tight. And then clean everything up so that way you can tell if there's a leak, if new fluid starts appearing. Once you get everything cleaned up, you can put your plastic access panel back on and put your wheel on, and we are done working in this area. So we're going to slide our access panel back underneath the fender well, or the fender liner, and just get these 2 holes right here lined up, just like so. And just start in your 10 millis. And then our plastic push clip. Push it through, snap it in. Get my electric ratchet and zip these up. So now we're just going to put our wheel back on. So make sure the car is completely cold, and then start it up after it's sat overnight or for a few hours. So what we want to do now is start it up and let it get up to temperature. So what we're going to do is get underneath the car and use our infrared temperature gun here. And I'm going to show you guys exactly where you need to check the temperature. Okay, so now that we're down here, I'm going to show you guys where to scan the temperature, and I would just scan it on the transmission housing itself. So right now it's 86 degrees, so we're going to let the car warm up to about 95 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So once we get up to about 95 degrees, what we're going to do is remove the drain plug right there once it's up to temp. And what that's going to do is going to drain out any of the excess transmission fluid that we put in it at the very beginning. Remember those 4 quarts that we put it in? I said you guys don't have to worry about overfilling it. Well, you're going to see why here in a little bit once it's up to temp. Alright, so while you're waiting for it to warm up, just go ahead and hit the brake and shift through all the gears, reverse, neutral, and drive. Now put it in drive and use the paddle shifters to go through the gears manually. It's freaking out because the door is ajar. So as you can see, we're going through all the gears manually. We're in gear 8. Now we're going down the gears. Just cycle through them back and forth while the car is warming up. And then just shift it through drive and reverse once again. And that should be good enough to move the fluid through the transmission. So you can put it back in park and check the temperature once again. Okay, so we're reading 95 degrees on the transmission. Car's been running for about 15 minutes now. And another way you can check to verify that your operating temperature is that the case should be hot, but not enough to physically burn you. So what we're going to do now is take our 10mm hex socket and go ahead and remove the drain plug. Just be careful, it's going to make a mess. The fluid will be warm. And all of the excess fluid is going to drain out. So now, while the car is running, we're just going to sit here and let this drain. So this is why I stated earlier, you don't have to worry about overfilling it, because once you remove this drain plug, all the excess fluid is just going to drain out of it. But remember, you have to do this up to operating transmission temperature, which is anywhere from 95 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So remember, I did put 4 quarts in it. You guys can probably put 3.5, and you probably wouldn't have to wait as long for the excess to drain, but I wanted to be better safe than sorry. Okay, then you go ahead and cap this back off. The dribble got slow, so I'm just going to go ahead and cap it off now. Try to clean my hands up real quick. Clean this area off. And now we're going to completely tighten down the drain plug now. Be very careful. That exhaust will be hot. Clean up any residual fluid so you can keep an eye for any future leaks. And now we can put our splash shield back on. So now we're just going to get our splash shield back in place. Remember, it was 3 plastic clips. So I'm going to go ahead and get these plastic clips pushed in since they're easy to do. Let our 2 10mm go up top of the skid plate. And remember, they're kind of tricky to get to, especially this one on the corner. You have to kind of peel this back. There's that one. Then we have this one up here, second one. Skid plate's on. Now we just have to lower the car. I think what would complete this look is if I had a Pabst Blue Ribbon in my hand. Wait, you're recording? Oh, anyways, I'm gonna jack the car up, remove these jack stands. So now all I have to do is just clean up, take a shower, and drive your car.